People have the right to fly. The first thing you're going to want to do when you start learning how to play wheel is take your guitar pick and throw it away. We don't need no pick. This is all with the fingers. Didn't you hear what I told these guys? I said, you don't need a pick. Go away, go away. You don't have any pants on. You can't be in the videos. Go fix the camera. I'll be back in just a second. Sorry about that. Where were we? No pick, all fingers. This is the next problem. See this? Thumb. He's using his giant monkey thumbs to play this song. So at this point I'm going to say that it's impossible to do this for the whole song, so we should just forget the whole thing. Video's canceled. No need to be like that. We're gonna substitute our pinky for the thumb, because we want to hit all those notes clear. So let's look at those chords. This first one is a D7 sus4, root on the 10th fret of the low E. Next one is an F add 9 with the root on the 13th fret. Make sure you get those bass notes in there. They're instrumental to the overall sound. Let's just take a minute and go over the tablature. These numbers across the top are the actual measure or bar numbers. They correspond to the downloadable tab. This is symbol as a rest. This means you're throwing in a small pause between the chords. You're stopping the ringing of the notes and then going into the next one. The T's at the bottom indicate that the 10th and 13th frets were played by the thumb. You don't have to do this. These wavy lines going into the notes in parentheses indicate a tie. This means that the notes carry on ringing into the next measure. This is how this is displayed. So you actually don't need to play these again. You've already played them. Here we see an uppercase T above some notes. This indicates a tap by the right hand, usually 12 frets above the fretted chord. And then we also have this. So that's a high bit. So on the first chord, we're barring on the 10th fret to get that E10 there. And we're just reaching down with the 3 fingers before going to the second chord. So this is basically the intro. You notice I'm slapping to keep time some places? It's all good. And just before the singing starts, he throws in these slap harmonics. So the secret to those are getting them off fast, making your finger flat. Some people use 2 fingers. I use the first one, and I kind of snap it down and then pull it off, right, like pull it away. You want to get that chime there and pull your finger before it can stop any vibration on that note. Actually, it doesn't vibrate on that note. It doesn't vibrate. It vibrates on either side. That's why you want to get your finger out of there. So it's around the 21st fret. Sorry, 22nd fret. If you have a 22 fret guitar like I do, it's right on there. And it sounds neat because you're doing this strange chord. It's not like barring the 10th fret and like doing a regular 12 fret above kind of thing. It has a really interesting ringing overtone. So the intro, first 8 bars. And then he starts singing. That's the people have the right to fly. We'll win. It gets compromised. So he's adding these nice right to fly, compromised. Goes with the lyric. Have the, so we're on G12 and B10. Now we continue on. The next one is a bit rushed. And we'll win. It gets compromised. So they both go with the lyric a bit, but one is occurring a bit before and has 3 notes. So the first one is da da da. The next one is da da da. So he interchanges these throughout live. He throws the 2 kinds in all over the place. But for the most part, once the song starts, he's doing the 3-note one in that rhythm. And then later on, he'll throw in one more da da. And that's the verse. They're pretty much all the same. Before going into each pre-chorus, at the end of each verse, he does a little fill to get there. They're all different. Here's the first one. That's it. Your mind says got you hard. Let's move it along. So that fill sounds like this. That's the first fill. Another fill is, they're all different. I'll point them out as we go. So we're barring on the 10th fret, on the B10, 13th fret of the low E, and then the 10th fret on the D and G. Slide down into the 6th fret position and we go into this. We've seen this before. This is a John Mayer country special. What we're doing there is we have the thumb on the low E6 string. With our first finger on G5, we're doing a little hammer on to the 7th fret, and then we have our second finger on the B6. So we piano attack these 3 notes, and then we do this. The way I attack these is I hook these 3 fingers under each of the strings, and then I have my thumb playing the bass note. So I know where they all are. All I have to do is hit whatever string they're on and everything will be fine. Mayer seems to do that but only use the first 2 strings. So whatever works for you. And then we go into this. At the 3rd position. So this first chord is 3rd finger is on D5, and then we have G3. We lead with the bass note, and we snap the 2 notes underneath. Then we move the shape down 1 fret, no space in between. And we're on D3 and G2, and we pluck that 3rd fret of the low E at the same time, so we have 3 notes. And then the same thing, 3 notes. So lead with the bass the first time. After that, it's all 3 notes. Slow. Timing is very strange. There's a rest in front of it. Verse 2 is exactly the same. Different lyrics. Airports, see it all the time. But then the pre-chorus is a bit different. First of all, we have that fill I talked to you about that occurs at the end of each verse. That's the one for verse 2. It's just G10 to B10 to G10. And then this part. Lyrics for context. When someone's last goodbye blends in with someone's sigh. That's the new part. He's actually sliding down the shape on the 6th fret all the way down to the 3rd fret, adjusting the notes on the G string. It's a smaller interval. So we're basically going from a major sounding thing to a minor sounding thing. So let's look at that. We have thumb on the 3rd fret of the low E, first finger on the G2, and then we have our second finger on the B3. And our 3rd finger, I'm maintaining the same fingering, sliding the whole thing down. Our 3rd finger is going to jump over the 2nd finger awkwardly, then and hit the G3. You can do this because the frets are wider. You can do it. You know you can. And the pinky is grabbing the D5. So up here on the 6th position, slide it down to the 3rd fret, same shape. The only thing is your 3rd finger is going to have to jump over and hit that G3. I think this is really cool. He only does it once in the whole song, and that's after verse 2. Then he goes back up again. It's a bit longer. And in the recorded version, there's this B6 out of nowhere there, so I like it. I kind of keep it in. Then we go into this part again. But it changes. We're going to lead every bass note now before the chord. Kind of alternating on the offbeat, I guess. Let's play that whole thing. You get the idea. So that's cool. I feel like throwing that 3rd fret part in more often because it's so cool. This brings us to the wonderful chorus. That's the way this wheel keeps working now. That's the way this wheel keeps working now. So it starts off on an F. And it's an F5 because you're only playing 2 distinct notes. The F, the 5th of the F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the octave of the F. Basically a power chord. Any power chord is an F5 chord. So we have the F5 to start off. Then we go to a D minor 7th. So we kind of maintain the same shape here. We have the 10th fret of the D and the G, but our 2nd finger is going to fret the 10th fret of the E string. The reason that's a D minor 7th is it's got a 7th that's flattened and it's got a 3rd that's flattened. So 1, 2, 3, take that down 1. That's that note there at the G10. And then the 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Flatten that. We're at the 10th fret of the D. So we have the root, which is D. We have the flattened 7th. And we have the minor 3rd. You can tack a 5th in there for a true D minor 7th chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So where were we? D minor 7th. That's the 2nd chord. And then we have this F5 with a C in the bass. I almost think of this as a C, but it's not really in this context. Because it's that F5, but we have a C in the bass. And then we have this A sharp suspended 2nd. And this is a handful for some people. We have our 1st finger on the E6, 2nd finger on the A8. Pinky is barring D10 and G10. Anytime you have something like this, that's a suspended 2nd, because that's the 2nd. That's the same note, so that's your 2nd. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1, 5, 2nd, and that's our 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trust me. A sharp suspended 2nd. So we have F5, D minor 7th, F5 with a C in the bass, and then our A sharp suspended 2nd, making up that wonderful chorus. So we go through it all. This wheel keeps working out. 2nd pass, we only do 3 of the chords and we let the 3rd one hang. That's the way this wheel keeps working now. And then we go into the pre-chorus. No, it won't be the last to Leading into verse 3, there's a bit of a musical interlude. So just like any verse, and then he does the timing changes a bit. It's almost straight time. And the timing has changed. It's not swung as much. It's more straight time. So 13th fret of the low E, and then we're barring with our first finger on G10 and B10. And then we are doing G12 and B11. Like that. And then laying our pinky down on B13 and then plucking that and the G12. So, and then back down and one up again. So back into that. Then we do this really nice thing. What's going on there is we're barring the 10th fret, bottom 3 strings. Our pinky is on E12 and our third finger is on G12. And we're not playing the B in between it. We're kind of muting it a bit. So we're just plucking the 2 outside strings, lifting off and then hitting the same 2 strings on the 10th fret. And then doing this shape, we have the pinky on the B13 and our third finger on the D12. And then barring the D10 and the B10. So this. So from the top. And then we end off with, oops, let's get that harmonic better. Going into verse 3, which is, you can build a house of leaves and live like you're an evergreen. We have a new fill, which is different from the other one. So it's these 3 little 2-note chords. And you slide the first one up, change the fingering on the way down. So the fingering for the first bit is G12, B11. Slide that up 2 frets to the 14th fret, and then come back down but change the fingering so you're at G10 and B11. Those are what you're working with. And then we go into this different pre-chorus. Yes, you guessed it, another John Mayer pre-chorus that's different from the pre-choruses before. He loves his different pre-choruses. These are why my tutorials are like 5 hours long. But that was excellent. Was that not excellent? That's excellent. I think this is my favorite part of the song. What we're doing there is the same setup as before. We're the 6th fret of the low E here. And we're arpeggiating the first notes. So bass, high. Then our third finger is going to take over from the pinky because my pinky's not too up to this. And we're going to slide from D8 to 7 back up to 8 again. So bass, like that. And you just repeat that. And then go into this part. That's that, it's just a season thing. It's just this do. That's the way. And then we're back into the chorus. This wheel keeps working now. We've seen this already. And then hang on this third note. And then we go back into the so that's one difference there. We go back into the pre-chorus after the chorus, do a double one. In the early pre-choruses, we're doing one pass of it, letting it hang. But coming out of that second chorus, you just keep repeating it. And then back into the... This is just before the solo. Now we find ourselves at the solo. This is my favorite John Mayer solo of all time. Very jazzy. Just got a nice blend of weird stuff and weird places where you wouldn't normally solo. So let's look at that. We're starting on the A3. That's the first thing we do, and that's a bit of a lead up. Second time we play it, we end on just two notes on that A5. And then we have this nice little run up. So I play all that with my thumb. And then my first finger, I'm on the G5. Then we slide in from B4. We have this rake with our thumb, just raking at the 5th fret. We're fretting from the D5 all the way down, and then we'll do an up pick on the B6, and we do a little pull-off slide from the G8 to the G7. Run down like that, and then that's kind of a weird thing. So you've got 2 frets between all of these, and you're doing these weird intervals. And then these little slide up 2-note things. So from your third finger is on the D5, first finger is on the G3, slide that up. And I use my thumb and mute the strings on the other side. And then there's a very oddly timed kind of run just before that, and another slide up, and then we go here. And then we do this bit again with this slide up, finally ending with like that. So I'll just play through the whole thing slow, and you kind of see on the tab where things line up. seen that less bit before in the intro. So that's the solo. One of the weirdest and most jazzy sounding John Mayer ones ever. Going into verse 4, we do things slightly different. He just does two of these. You can find me if you ever want again. So he doesn't do that part. It's just two of these. You can find me if you ever want again. Then it goes into the last weird improvised pre-chorus. I'll be around. And all of this stuff is similar to that 6-position arpeggiated chord stuff, but it's all improvised except for the very last pass. So what I suggest is, instead of learning what's in the tab, you just improvise over these shapes. This part is the same, but this is different every time. If you have something you like, you can just repeat that. And the lyric there is, I'll be around, I'll be around, I'll be around. So it's up to you what to do there. It's totally improvised each time. Another thing I'll add is, it sounds really nice in this 6th fret low E part if you double this thing. On the last pass before you get to the... He does that in the track. So... So what he's doing there is, it's a 2-note pull-off, and we have our second finger on B6, first finger on G5, and we're pulling off from G7 to 5, sounding both of these notes. And then we're just running down the D string. We have 8, 7, 5, and then 8, 5. I think in the tab I'm doing, and then 2 notes here as well. So while fretting that G5 and your pinky on the D8 to 7, pulling that off as well. But I find I often don't hit that when I go to play it. I just kind of do that close enough in the spirit of it. And then we do our final. And what we're adding for that last chord is just this B3. So we're extending that and barring down to get this. Sounds like a nice way to end it. And then we're going into the final chorus. After the last chorus, we're headed into an outro, and this is this part. Can't love too much, one part of it. 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 And he's doing almost the same rundown that we have during the chorus, but this time we're skipping the B, going right to that A sharp, and then coming back to the F. So the rhythm is this. Like that. We're dealing with 4 notes, so we're doing an F major, get your third in there, 5th, root, and octave. And the way I play it is I've got my thumb and my 3 fingers, minus the pinky, and the 3 fingers are hooked into the bottom strings, and then the thumb is on the lowest note. And I pluck 3 of those top strings, and then I hit the bass note once, and then my bottom 2 fingers hit the bottom 2 notes. So 3, 1, 2. 3 notes, 1 note, 2 notes being the highest. All the way to the A sharp here. And resolve back to the F again. I believe. Like that. So that's the first rhythm. This is the second distinct rhythm in the outro, building a bit on the first and boogieing a bit more. This is after the lyric, I believe. Same positions, we're just changing up the rhythm a tiny bit. So we're going, plucking the 3 notes closest to you, 1, 2, then hitting the 2 farthest away from you, and then 2 in the middle. So 3 notes, 2 notes on the highest strings once, and then 2 notes on the middle strings twice. Slow, it's, and then you repeat it. In the track, he does something weird the first time. He does this, and then he takes a skip like that, so he doesn't hit those notes twice. It's The is a rest where you don't play anything. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be exact all the time. Then we just keep going down. When he gets to the A sharp, he does 3 of them, which I think is neat, and I try to keep in. Then he goes back to, and then, I believe that my life's gonna change. No, you get returns to me. So that is the second distinct rhythm. So for the final part of the outro, the rhythm changes a bit more, boogies even more. It sounds like this. And then he's done and he does the a cappella bit. I believe that my life's gonna see da, 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 return to me. So what's going on in that rhythm is I'll play it slow. So the first 2 bars there on the F, if you notice, there's a bass note played at the very end of the first measure that connects it to the second, and then in the second measure we don't play it, we just hang out longer on that note. So try to hear what I'm trying to explain here. I'll accent those 2 pieces. So that note hangs out longer, and when we slide to the next chord, it sounds cooler. Down here. There's a neat thing here where he's barring with his pinky the D10 and G10, and then the 3rd finger is on the G9, and we're doing a very awkward before moving back to the F. Ending off on that, and you're pretty much done the song. As I was learning it, I make myself a backing track and I jam to it. I found myself really liking this. That one time he throws it in, I felt like I was hearing it in that outro, but I wasn't. I checked all the notes, and he only does it that once. But that's enough to pique your interest. And so I found myself like improvising on that. So there's a lot you can do there. I believe I might do that in the live track. I tend to do that as I'm outroing just before the a cappella part. So all that is, I'll just explain it. It's not in the tab or anything. You're doing this chord, and then you're just augmenting it a bit with your second finger on that G9. And you can roll over it and get this happening. Same with this. Your first finger now is playing that G9. And then we go down to the A sharp. Unfortunately, we have to do this with our pinky barring and lifting off. It sounds super nice when you go to the C here. And then, yeah. And you can add this note as well, the B11. What a wonderful song. Now we're going to look a bit at some of the Guitar 2 stuff, not all of it, but just the tasty bits played under the solo and some of the other rhythm parts. Guitar 2 is a mixture of airy, atmospheric shit that sounds great, but it was obviously invented in the studio, and I don't think it's ever been played live. So you can kind of go through the tab and see. I tabbed it exactly as I hear it, but as I was doing it, I didn't see a lot of value in learning it. There are some parts though that sound nice, like the guitar lines that are playing under the pre-choruses. Those are lines I hear as second guitarist play live, but all the other stuff I do not hear in the live tracks I listen to. So we have stuff like this under the, and the Guitar 2 plays. So those are nice. They're nice and airy and repeatable, and I do hear them live. So that's a combination of the verse 1 and verse 2 pre-chorus. So we're doing a double stops, 2-note chords, I kind of call them. And the first one is third finger on the D10, second finger on the G9. And then slide that down 2 frets to frets 8 and 7. And then take your first finger and add it on the B6. So the other pre-chorus, he does that. Then he changes it up a bit. And all that is our first chord shape at the 9th fret. And then we're barring at the 10th fret the 2 middle strings. And then we're barring the string under that and hitting all 3 of those. All the 3 strings barred at the 10th fret. So kind of moves up. And then this is one of my favorites. Very nice. That one is barring at the 10th fret, D10, G10, and then the pinky is on B13. And then you're coming down and changing your fingering. We have the first finger on D8, and then third finger on G10. And we go, and then we bar on to the B10. So 3 strings, 2 strings, 3 strings. It's a very nice movement. Sometimes 2 notes, sometimes 3. So those are very nice and airy, and examples of something you might want to do if you have a second guitarist for that part. Guitar 2 also adds some support in the chords in the chorus. We have this kind of thing. And we're adding this note for those. And he actually plays the C in that part in back of the, like that. So just make sure and it's a slow strum, like. And in the second chorus, he actually does some little melody stuff like by coming back up and hitting those middle strings at the bar 10th fret. So that's, make sure you get this note in there. So it does add some nice stuff in the background. During the solo, guitar 2 plays this. So it's different from what we've done before in the pre-choruses. So looking at those 2-note chords, which either have a fret between them or no fret between them, and the note closest to me in this case is an 8th fret of the D string. So we have 8, and then back again, and then up to the 10th fret, and we bar, and then we go back to the 8th fret, and back to 10, like that. After that, he arpeggiates here and there in various rhythms that can't be repeated easily, but it's... Then we go back to some 2-note chords. The second half of the solo we have and that doubles the guitar 1 does. So more of the same. This is a new chord. So first finger on D10, pinky on G12, and then back down to the 8th position. And then this is just an F. Pinky on the B11. One of the last things you'll notice guitar 2 prevalent on in the mix is chorus 3 when they're going into "That's the way this wheel keeps working out. That's the way." We're doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 2 notes, D10 and G10, and we're just kind of every beat. And then the last measure, the fourth measure in each repetition, we're adding on this B11. And then starting over again. And it's very loud in the mix, it creeps up. And then we go into the outro stuff. Guitar 2 does some interesting arpeggiated chords just before the outro starts. Are heard in the track and they stand out to my ears. So what we're doing is a variation of that first chord. We've got our pinky on the E13, barring the 10th fret here, and we're just first plucking it. So the 2 middle strings at the 10th fret and the 13th fret on the low E, and then arpeggiating these notes. So, and then shifting over with our 3rd finger to the 12th fret of the A, and we do this. Still barring the 10th fret. Let me arch my finger here so it sounds clear. So we're hitting the 12th fret of the A, 10th fret at the D, and then we're hitting the highest fretted bar here on the B10, coming back to the G10. So from the top, that part's. We do it again. There's this nice thing, barring at the 10th fret from the D on down. So we hit that 10th fret bar, and then with the 3rd finger we're going to walk up from the 12th fret on the A to the 13th. So, and then do it again on the 12th fret of the 13th, like that. So that little bit is And these are just in-studio fill for the backing track to make things sound nice, but they really punch out, especially those high notes in relation to what Guitar 1 is doing. And that's about it for the interesting stuff that I find on the Guitar 2 track. So you made it to the end of the song, congratulations! This was done with my new guitar. This is one of those HSS humbuckers, single coil with a Shawbucker, American Pros. Very nice guitar. The sounds on it are amazing. Like, very stratty. Wide range, excellent studio guitar. So had this into an Axe-Fx. I'll post the Axe-Fx patch for it, running into my Tech 21 powered speaker, and I did a tweeter mod a couple years ago, so it adds a triple frequency to it. So I took the unusual step of doing a complete backing track this time around. So that's kind of nice because we can isolate some of the parts, hear what's going on. Bass part's pretty simple. The drums were done in Easy Drummer, so that makes them a lot nicer than the MIDI sounds in Guitar Pro. Yeah, oh, here we have the vocal. Don't solo that. That's just too scary. But we can hear some of the interesting stuff that Guitar 2 does. And I show some of these parts in the tutorial. Basically, if they're interesting. So I'll be releasing several versions of this with different things removed for people to karaoke or guitar karaoke over top of them. So that was pretty much it. Nothing more to say. Thanks for watching.